Welcome to the reading tonight. I'm Charles Alexander, Director of Chax Press, and it's an absolute pleasure to be able to host and present this reading by the authors of our two most recent books, Kyle Schlesinger and Andrew Levy. Kyle is reading first. Kyle Schlesinger is a poet, printer, and professor. His publications include A New Kind of Country, Chax 2020, Color and Light from Ducey in 2020, None of Us, a collaboration with Ted Greenwald from Kin Press in 2020, Vast Acid West, a collaboration with Crane Giamo, and also a publishing collaboration of Cuneiform Press and Apocalyptic Editions, and a Poetics of the Press, Ugly Duckling Press 2020, which is a collection of interviews with people involved with the book in one way or another. He resides in Austin, where he serves as the proprietor of Cuneiform Press. That and that alone is the bio he sent to me for a book publication. Humble. Some things it doesn't say. Kyle is an immaculate printer, one who imagines books from the inside out, form as an extension of content, one who honors and extends both the traditions of printing and the history of the book, and the poetry he generally publishes, though he has also published beautiful visual art, works on music, and more. Crazy thing is, it was apparent that he would do brilliant work as poet, printer, and professor when I first met him, and he was a grad student at the State University of New York at Buffalo in a program where he was able to work with and learn from Robert Creeley, Susan Howe, Dennis Tedlock, Charles Bernstein, and others of the best artists and scholars in their fields, and among colleagues who are becoming, like him, some of the best poets of his generation. He was able to somehow absorb almost all of the lessons from the Black Mountain poetry movement, lessons of commitment to place, to one's time and politics, to the earth, as well as to collaborative and generative practices in the arts, to a poetics of energy and expansiveness. Yet he also received from his reading and explorations something of the more flaneur-like role one might see in New York school poets such as Bill Berkson and Ted Greenwald, both of whom he has published at Cuneiform Press. In other words, if Kyle Schlesinger was an ancient Roman poet, he would not be Virgil charting the history of a culture, or Ovid mapping the mythology in fiery stories, or Catullus presenting Roman mores and customs, sexual and otherwise. No, he would be Horace, the best of such poets, seemingly without effort joining the everyday to the eternal, the dreams and fears to the lived daily life in odes and satires. When Kyle was awarded the first Philip Whalen Award for his collaborative book, The Doo-How with James Urey, I believe the award was an acknowledgement of how he, like Whalen, brings the attention of mind to the uninterrupted flow of life and the universe in ways that challenge, restore, delight, and move. In his beautifully multiplistic and sometimes visually challenging book, What You Will, from New Lights Press in 2010, he writes, or perhaps notes, these feel like notations. Welcome to the Index, a book of signatures, want names where ledgers walk. Pursuit of happiness, abstracts, I sleep. That's the ticket on the books. But that is, of course, only a picture, which I find both sets out a desire to locate us, in this case among acts of books and signs and names and numbers, but also gives a sense of the impossibility of any final summation. That is, it may be the ticket, but it's only a picture. For me, I want Kyle Schlesinger punching my ticket, and I want to take the ride with him wherever it may go. Please welcome Kyle Schlesinger.
Gosh, thank you so much, Charles. The audio is okay? Yeah, I would include you in my long list of generous teachers and mentors. I'm a very fortunate person. So thank you for inviting me, and it's great to read with Andrew. I haven't seen in years, and thank you all for coming. Before I sort of get on to my own poems, I wanted to tell you all about this very special book called The Poem Is Telling Me I Remember. In the last 3 months or so, I've been volunteering with Lorraine Lupo, wonderful poet, with a group of poets at Creative Growth in San Francisco, or I'm sorry, Oakland. And these poets have developmental disabilities. And every Friday we get together in the morning on Zoom, and I've never taught creative writing before. I'm not really teaching creative writing now, but we just collaborate and we have so much fun, and we write these fantastic poems together. And this is their first book, which you can order from the website. And the first thing we did together was we wrote a press release for this book. Rather than, I've written lots of press releases, but we said, why don't we write a press release as a book, as a group? So here's the press release for the Creative Growth Art Center. Poetry must go on. Open the book and read the first page. Firecrackers. Dogs go crazy when it goes pow, pow. Dogs are wagging and chasing their tails. A group of people are writing a poem together, a page-by-page collage. And each time you turn a page, it's a whole new experience. A circular spaceship of the book takes you everywhere. Blast off. The book is like a rocket. This is the best book you can buy. This is the perfect one. It's like opening a gate. Come on in. The book is far, far away in the galaxy of lights, camera, and action. You're kicking things up a notch in space. It's going to be epic. The poem is telling me I remember. Creative Growth, Oakland, California. And it's really been like one of the most wonderful things that happen in this world of social distancing for me. And this is the book Charles made, A New Kind of Country, with a beautiful cover by Jim Dine, whose work is also in the background here tonight. And thank you, Charles, for this book and all of the beautiful books you make and write. What an honor. The book is dedicated to 4 of my heroes, none of whom I have ever met. Bernadine Dorn, Bill Hicks, Waylon Jennings, and Roberta Pedon. It begins with 3 epigraphs by 3 other people I have never met before. Without perishing from the tricks of my own mind, how would I get to Kingsley? And that's from an old movie called Ride in the Whirlwind, acid western. It matters not where or how far you travel. The farther, commonly the worse, but how much alive you are. And that's Thoreau. And somebody said it was nice while it lasted. And that's Emmett Grogan. The first poem is called Something Beautiful, and it's dedicated to John Godfrey. Think of something. Now think of something else. The green that is apples is the green you may recall. As you were saying, where you kept putting it, ring and wood reminds a certain ring to it. Just then the buck stops and everyone gets off. The hind twine years hum after the house lights come on and on again. Don't even go there. Outcast moon doesn't sound right. There's a table for two through the floating doors, where air breathes in a small pond, through cattails and sand, where train tracks run forever and trains we've never seen. Ambient summer storm, we brought our nets anyway. I retrace my steps in the dark, write another 16-liner, and the air feels like my body, like smoke and seaweed, and the streets are empty. Inside your body, and it's wonderful being inside out. There's something else in the air. No one can touch or stay home. You clean the bathroom on Sundays with the radio on. A transistor plain as day. It's times like these when there's no one around, when trees are the weeds of winter, and there's a glow of green light in the snow. Start over. I spent a year on a farm trying not to freak out and holding food down, breathing and remembering to breathe, waiting for the phone to ring, the door to knock or bust down, but mostly smoking, listening to records, fixing on small corners and edges, forgetting names for colors and light and contrast that's distinct. From sullen irony and glances, and this week's been a rainy one. There's a lot of great people in town. Lots of lightning bugs, living with Chris, old habits, new routines, and words for Robert Creeley. The words are in the body is in the mind. The big white cloud is in the sky. The stars are in the eye. There is a butterfly on my finger. The heart is in the Bronx. There's nothing in Delaware. The brain is not the mind. The future looks bright. The chance is in the forefoot. The money's under the table. The suitcase is on the mattress because nothing really matters. The mistress has a mistress. The numbers don't add up. The money talks, the belly breathes. The words are in the mouth. The tongue tickles the pizza. But the heart stays alive. The finger is in the ear, and the other finger is in the other ear. But because the dragon is in the moat, in emotion is the caption, beneath the moat, beneath the caption, below the words, under the stars, that breathe in a movie starring an actress from the 20th century, whose name escapes me. And this one is called Up Close, and I wrote it with a 7-year-old. Up close. In the poets that has the best of everything, and the most that is nothing better than a teaser, a scroll made of paper, a gold shiny piece of paper, they shall walk by Fridays in summer by a jar of many ones. I got a picture of gum that's special because it's a piece of treasure. And this is Providence, where I grew up. What's on television? Just another hallucination. We've got the volume at 45 to make the weather sound better. There's a place where Zeppelin's always on, but we don't take the lyrics too seriously, like Conrad's mom. And there's always a haircut you don't understand. Donald Sutherland's voice, Ted Berrigan's Providence, the slant of the sleet, the grit of the street, where there's a Dunkin' Donuts in every corner. And then something changed, and everyone turned on the radio, turned off the lights. I wonder where you are, where Huey's at. Zoom. And this was written before I knew what Zoom was, when Zoom just meant Zoom. Angels are ceilings. Sentience runs through the floor, dissolves the part of the Polaroid that's not the picture. The ghost in me sputters. The face is your face, cool to the touch. It's funny, I feel like this is really the first book I wrote in Texas, but so much of it is about reminiscing about being back at home in New England. and this one is called Cape Cod 89. Once removed, we're watching Hannah and her sisters on the tube. Sunday afternoon motel room, and there's that chlorine hairdryer smell of seaweed, new carpet, and nicotine. Midwinter days, but not in that order. There's a knock at the door, and a beautiful stranger climbs into bed with us without saying a word. The air is very blue. I guess everyone is crazy about Hannah and her sisters. Hours pass, and outside it's drizzling, so a couple from Tennessee gives us a ride to a new bar in an industrial park. We're planning a wedding, or that was the impression. Their van is really clean. Where there's music, I just want to kiss your face to see if you want any more face. I've got the seedy taste of Christmas in my mouth. Rain falls on our parade, faded and clean. Jump shot, this is for Tom Rayworth. Before the flat, a fifth ball to the wind, pissing in paradise, small stone eyes cast each day different gray, high tops of youth. All you do is point and shoot. Off the hook. You wouldn't believe it if I told you that I was where you thought you were when we heard the news come over the wire. Seems like yesterday, only yesterday seems like an eternity. And tomorrow is just around the corner. In every movement, there's a feeling of routine and possibility that keeps me on my toes. Okay, since you asked, a little about me. Let's see, guilty pleasures? For starters, I love a new toothbrush, especially orange, and black t-shirts, medium 3-packs with a pocket on the breast. But I'm not picky. I mean, I am, but not really after you get to know me. But enough about me. How about you? Yeah, me too. Oh, totally. Wouldn't be caught dead, etc. Yeah, I see what you, those fucking pricks. Now there's an idea. Phone's ringing off the hook. Outside it's dark, and it's already been noon for an hour, maybe two. Where does the time go? And it's still dark outside, and it looks like rain, and boy, we could sure use it. And I know you're coming over on your bike in an hour or two. What will we do? I'm a sincere person. I really mean that. But I can't take life too seriously. And that sums it up pretty good, I think. I think I take the phone off the hook, look up at the sky, close my eyes. Now it's all coming back to me. Split. We were, now we're. Spent the first half of the day clearing up the second half of yesterday. Spent the second half of the day cleaning up for tomorrow, in the future, like they say. Dream. You know that feeling you get the night before a pet dies? That's exactly the way I feel before the word appears in the white rectangle. Hello. It's so good to see you. You look so great. I didn't recognize you. How are things? Let's talk about notebooks and the girls behind the fence playing hide and seek. Let's talk about clouds without alluding to anything but clouds. Let's sing about poetry without mentioning any proper names. Let's describe the Crusades using colors only. Let's look at the tall grass and look the other way. Go for a long walk. Notice all the things we've passed through the years. Coffee cups, remote controls, pens and maps. The only way to say a word without changing its meaning may be this in passing. There's cedar in the air and more besides. What else may be the best question ever? The beast in all things was not a we. It was the heart of everything that is. My favorite work of art is the woolly mammoth drawing on the porch. All the little things. Look at all the strangers in the newspaper. How do we recognize what we know? Think of everyone who smiled at me today, any day for that matter. Imagine all the people and their families. Picture another land. What could freedom mean? A bike in the hedge, odds are in your court. And the night is new. Hello, moon. Hello, you again. Poems of devotion. Brad. More often in his own time than on time. And that's just one of the things I love about Brad. Nate. A green parakeet, a sunflower in each beak. Grant. My back pages are yellow pages, advertisements for taxidermists who used to drive taxis for a living. Doug. Can't really think of a Doug. David. A hailstorm in July you never knew you needed until it landed and everyone stopped to see what's going on. Making a killing. Doesn't really remind me of anyone that I know. Moon. When the moon winks at you from across the room. Self-portrait for you. I've always imagined you had a pretty healthy sex life, but I can't imagine sex without life, without sex, I've always imagined. Take that poem to church. Knock at door, but who's asking? Suede orange cabin, but who's asking? A name to go by, all arise, knock at door. Weather shows, but never station, but who's asking? But never station, knock at door. Repeat after me, weather shows. On the corner, think it over, but never station, but who's asking? A name to go by, but nothing lasts on the corner. This one is called Striking Distance, and Mr. Larry Fagan, who was very fond of making lists. Hannah Arendt, Lester Bangs, Walter Benjamin, Wallace Berman, Carl Bernstein, Joe Brainerd, Marlon Brando, Bruce Conner, Sam Cooke, Francis Ford Coppola, Arthur Danto, Angela Davis, Joan Didion, Willem de Kooning, Robert De Niro, Nick Dorsey, Bob Dylan, Peter Fonda, Paulo Freire, Hank Greenberg, Dave Hickey, Dennis Hopper, Wanda Jackson, Jasper Johns, Billie Jean King, John Lennon, John Lewis, Sergio Leone, Steve McQueen, Huey Newton, Jack Nicholson, Sam Peckinpah, Leonard Peltier, Sidney Poitier, Robert Rauschenberg, Keith Richards, Edward Shea, Susan Sontag, Frank Stella, Hunter Thompson, Cy Twombly, Ann Waldman, Haskell Wexler, Bob Woodward, Serena Williams, Ludwig Wittgenstein, Malcolm X, Neil Young, and Howard Zinn. What do movie stars do all day? Wear sunglasses at night, drive convertibles with scarves wrapped around their heads, put cucumber slices over their eyes, drink martinis with 3 olives, walk down red carpets in evening gowns, take bubble baths, order room service on silver trays, begin and end sentences with, darling. Stay in the best hotels. Say, I'm feeling faint. Faint. Catch other movie stars who faint. Excuse themselves for urgent calls. Flee the paparazzi. Drink red punch with orange slices. See pictures of themselves in the morning paper. Bite their fist. Say, follow that car and step on it. Hire private eyes. confide in their agents. Texas, like death warmed over. And I'll close with Outside the Word Balloon for Bill Berkson. Candid paths crossing this way and that, an iron-on winter rain, jackknives through trees, effortless smile, such capable hands, sublime scribble, bending the wind, turrets of excess overlook eucalyptus, Baroque to the nines. It's happened to me. As far as eyes twinkle, where the chairs reconfigure the stars, as the curtain falls like a corkscrew, all of you, Mountain View.
Thank you, Kyle. Sometime we'll have to talk and you can tell me how Hank Greenberg got on that list, but all wonderful. Okay. And we're really just going to move on to Andrew Levy. And if you weren't here at the beginning, we'll open up the mics when the readings are over and have a little time to talk among us. But now we'll just keep going. Andrew Levy is the author of Notes Toward a Supreme Fiction, 2029, Artifice in the Calm Damages, the chapbook, also the new book, Artifice in the Calm Damages, Don't Forget to Breathe, Nothing is in Here, a novella, 10 other collections of poetry and prose. His poems and essays have appeared in numerous American and international magazines and anthologies, including Poetics-for-the-More-than-Human-World, an anthology of poetry and commentary, Light Abstracts the Smallest Things, the Aesthetics of Basil King, the Canary Islands Connection, 60 Contemporary American Poets, and Resist Much, Obey Little, Inaugural Poems to the Resistance. His writing works on the intersections of class and the ecology of commerce and experimental music and the digitalization of freedom. A drummer, he works in collaboration with musicians and poets on readings and performances, and he teaches journalism at BMCC-CUNY. Let's focus for a moment on those two anthologies, the Poetics-for-the-More-than-Human-World and Resist Much, Obey Little, Inaugural Poems to the Resistance, and locate Andrew as a poet of resistance. But we may be used to resistance being shouted and shown in brilliant signs and placards. While he would support such movements and has, his own resistance is written and severely, intensely thought. Thought as questioning, thought as finding intellectual and historic parallels, thought as a path which might come up to us and say, here it is, think about it, and which also might lead us to a future in which we participate, eyes open and minds changing as we take in and take on the world. I don't think there is a parallel in classical Roman poetry that resembles Andrew, but if you throw in a bit of Marshall's biting satire and perhaps a little bit of the historian Tacitus's desire to see things clearly and whole and without bullshit, you might get close. In a 2002 book, Ashoka, he writes, "Poetry controlled by money isn't funny. And one of my friends has been picked up for dialectics." He sorts the world in a way that helps us get through it, staying away from the money that would control and the thoughtlessness that leads to acts of oppression and coercion, which we have seen all too often in recent years. The overwhelmness of the world does not stop Andrew from insisting that he and we, quote, maintain the endurance of the one who apprehends. Lest you think of his work, though, as some hardscrabble, and sometimes humorous politics without the lilt, lift, and lyricism of music, just listen to a passage from Black Plateau, a poem in curve, which was the first of his books that caught my attention, from O Books in 1994. Miserable John of shadow sensuality, whose vacant locks at a convent, wall turning my hand to it, taking the infidel childhood completed, erudite esquire's podium filch effect, doe lack knowledge, neck knelt, dry tender button, this debacle knob, where every line partakes in an evenly paced alliteration and consonance through a landscape of complex listening. He listens as a drummer to time and its variety. And he is a drummer, one marked by the impact of music that has explored the possibilities of innovative jazz over the last 60 or so years. You might say that such music embraces Gertrude Stein's positioning of the artist, quote, inside the between that is turning, which is a quote that becomes an epigraph to Andrew's extended sequence, Myth of the Not Her Blood. While he is always about moving to such insides and risks at every step the very blood of our existence, he also writes with generosity to all of us, a generosity implied with a quote that ends one of the sections of that sequence. I want to go from here with you. I want to go with you too, Andrew, and I'm so glad you are here with us tonight.
Thank you, Charles. Thankfully, I remembered to turn my mic back on. Thank you. That's a moving intro. And Kyle, your reading was great. It certainly cheered me up. And thank you, David, also, and everybody else for making it tonight. This is the book mentioned. I guess you can see it. The image on the cover is a sample of the border wall. It's like an actual model, that some people wanted to erect. Anyway, that's the image. I'll start at the beginning of the book. Artifice in the calm damages. It will arrive beneath the skin, leave no footprint. It's backward compatible. Neonics are threatening our bees. The contingent sweat carving up lettuce from a vicious pile of soldiers promises salvation in a layer of non- and for-profit hierarchies that govern and shape an indentured sobriety to reverse a technicolor yawn under which we go to war. Why is the baby on the bench? I came with him, and then I was kicked out. Cure in the sense of stopping the pathology among the genres of a happy ending. The ink that neglects the class war protects the particular identity groping toward the already vanished forgetfulness. Look what you did to me, babe, says the context of go and be evil. An unfinished garden of involuntary. Either you have someone's attention, regardless of benediction, or your trip advisor over tea and cakes composes an upper-class protocol to protect you from other people. But I guess you, free and secure citizens, pruned in the educated restructure of feeling and thought washed clean, know that already. Brass tongues vomit all over me. It's demoralizing. Do I complain? I don't know what to say. Molasses, prayer-like subterranean dispatch, separation, personality lengthened, impeachable pamphlets, quid pro quo. This bill just gets worse and worse. Whose jobs were offshored or eliminated by import competition? What the fuck did you think they were going to assemble? I think we need one now where the baby wears holsters. And just a heads up, the baby will reappear several times in this book, whoever that is. The punitive tiring of light, to William Fuller. The paradox of capitalist labor is a fine thing, but it is not the place of sanctity. One dwells in the recognition of a demi-quintessence, hours of toil that vary with position or time, that eventually leaves one's pocket, ghost of the departed slowed to an adagio, paralyzed by its haste. Everything else rots in hell in the unenviable position of having to study work and points of departure, perhaps some form of manual control, and neither very rational. Dialogue with one's material takes the optometrist's job that smells of laundry soap and mildew along the hallway where the spiders hang in wait. I mean that literally and metaphorically. Adults who cry when they die did not have mothers who would comfort them. What is constant, if it exists, is not really constant. We're not people. We're lithographs. We're only real between acts. The best of our domestic imprecations allow one to expire resplendent with desire, part of the unstoppable drift in time, and thus operative, imaginative trees becoming stars, creating space. Climbing down from my tree, the sole of my right foot keeps the only knowledge it retains on the top of my sandals. Striving in both construction and surface may be something ordained to serve us. A cactus garden, birds hunting insects in the needles, succumb by a regimen of idleness, an abyss of saffron fertilizer, Exxon tanks, soap plants spilling into key streams, neuromolecular death turning down the lender of last resort. Genius conjectures on lonely fantasies accidentally imprisoned in retirement to avoid an apology. Seeing that intimacy is effortless, it has no need to come inside one's cabin, waving its feet in safety deposit envelopes of the divine, which, heartbroken, calls from a huge bedroom and cries, "The impeded stream is the one that sings." There's a place for everyone, to Samita Sinha. The resting place mobilized for pearl making, the fortunate fall. We see fleeing in fact, the stone which the builders refuse come to be the petty tyrant who makes our life hell, the vehicle. The cornerstone pushes against the spot where the bodies fell. Our semi-automatic has to fix this. Ring and reaction as reminder, the video of the choppy, the way time like corn syrup is lived in our world. A reminder of whatever you are doing, reminders of our breath, of your own roar. Helicopters and bombs bring you back to your true self, pushing against the spot where you fell. Repeat it, amplify it, develop it further. Hope it doesn't happen again, feel guilty. The cold and the humidity goes out of tune, becomes lower in pi in pitch, becomes the bow's weight. To tune the sub-basement even further, the harmonic blunder, abstract color and pattern peppered with stories, otherworldly microscopic seeded by mistakes, the discovery of penicillin, the careless handling of a photographic plate, an alchemical quark, unalterable peace. Nutcase ahoy, going bonkers and blustery drizzle, a fistful of soggy aphids, a worm returned to soil. Go tell hell to hang up. Go there to take an awful beating. Reserve 60,000 charming elevators, lose track of gravity, run across my globe an amputated sycamore bled dry. Trawl for leaves feasibly optioned, be duplicitous at my beck and call. Commensurate with fleece too painfully for a century further than the next clipper. Give a soak, watching a bunny, her chunky Gnostic rings owed money. Buy a comfortable place and lie low like herpes. Evolve in microwaves. Share if you're sure you have truth. How can you share the grubby cafe, a feisty stagger, the greyhound of language? Restore pony breeders, an addle brain in so-called melting pots. The dusty rectangle in the dome, nose holes with clinical depression, chlorinating bedwetting. Remember talking about something to establish something else. Begin to see in a kind of Picasso multitudes of people. This is a poem dedicated to Julie Patton. It's called Last Night. Last night, 21-year-old Dylan Roof entered Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, and asked to sit with Pastor Clementa Pickney, pulled up the horse a yai shy, leaded through the scalp, no time to mount cross bolts. That's what I heard. Hole didn't stop to shoot a tree from lumber, busted their falls bad. Hushed with a handcart, burnt black kindergarten, euthanasia, 5-star Taipei. Shrubs singing what a window was, kickboxed. Your post-grad grads are the worst. Professors wipe their asses, babysitting genomed ears, a weaker growth in China. These guys have a lot of secular headwinds, mired in downtrend head and shoulders, sugar rush acquisitions, latest and greatest, ultimate killing machine. Before this bond hearing conformism can also destroy it, raised and trained and treated consumers. Prepare in eating or drinking, procrastination to not doing, the allergies ego, its spiky, rotted bonfire, door-banging alto bassoon, slaves, peasants, flagstones, ignorance, wealthy Buddha. We as a nation, composers of the age, contradictions, architects, perpetuated hate, an aquatent of marble towers, a crime the day humanity shall have fulfilled its purpose. The demagogue excused of that kingdom, the honeymoon malady, rebuffed, burgled, everyone hurt, double-bladed, stroked, encircled on the lookout, bound for Switzerland, 5 bottles of wine to wear it. My ears flattered, protested, sentimental injustice. Do something clumsy, indiscreet. This and not who we are. This is who we are. The opening ritual becomes everything we do and perceive. Say goodbye, walk out on the stage, treat each solitary moral and anguish the comedian's invocation, medium's hip in concentration. Begin to move. Return the Chinese boxes. Check the total system of requisite variety. On earth, small arms never arrive at truth. Penetralium. At some point, Brown said, the suspect then pulled out a barbecue-style lighter, used it to ignite a rag in a bottle, and then waited for a few seconds before using the flames to set her afire, causing smoke to fill the elevator. The man backed out as she fell to the floor of the elevator, Brown said, and seemed to pause before tossing the bottle inside the elevator and onto her. Is it normal to grab a boy's genitals? Andrew, early this morning, the last of our troops left Iraq. As we honor and reflect on the sacrifices that millions of men and women made for this war, I wanted to make sure you heard the news. Bringing this war to a responsible end was a cause that sparked many Americans to get involved in the political process for the first time. Today's outcome is a reminder that we all have a stake in our country's future and a say in the direction we choose. Sandusky, I don't know. Thank you. Barack. No one goes away and then comes back. Young people don't remember what we do, nor are we fully engaged by their issues. If there is only one world drenched in time through and through, the world removed of time by emptying the world of time and space, the recurrence in certain ways in which pieces of the world relate to other pieces, its subject matter, structured wholes and bundles of relations, in the time-bound particulars of the manifest world is not part of the world. We do not see the beginning or end of time, and we find ourselves, after a long time of floating on the land and a short time of floating in the river, retracing our steps to find out what is actually happening. The world rushes in a circle and turns on its axis, and time is busy burning the years and the people. The burning wants to hide inside an imitation, or inside the meaning of life, the discovery of which we cannot put off. Gravity becomes too much a bear. An epiphany enables you to sense creation not as something completed, but as becoming, evolving, descending, and in ascent. It transports you from a place where there is nothing new to a place where there is nothing, where heaven and earth rejoice to copy that which is not part of them. It's something that doesn't often happen. The key to the world's unexplainable entrapment is discovered in the cannibalism and fighting, the enigma of existence censors and remakes. Talk about your shared love of literature. Certainly no hope of gain motivates our insatiability, that we always want more and demand the infinite from the finite. Our sensibility is something that forces us to die in order to show, perhaps, that an infinite emptiness drenches the people of earth. Removed of time and phenomenal distinction, what lies ahead, not as developments that will touch us personally, even if they shape our children and grandchildren, but as verses that capture reality as groundlessness. This one I've only had the opportunity to ever read once before, so I thought I would use tonight to do that. Filth, blood, and noise. The player is a liar when he says sometimes wind and sometimes women, sometimes waves and sometimes seals. The player is a liar when he says one's environment is a key to one's identity, but that his environment is a lost key. The player is a liar when he says jealousy in men is as good as dollars in the soul, that men's souls are oriented not to miss things. The player is a liar when he says one's environment is the key to one's identity, and that his environment is the master key. The player is a liar when he says an ounce of genuine interest would be a start, and steadfast resolution is thicker than water. The player is a liar when he says a worm returned to soil and wished he were it. The player is a liar when he says, I want dynamite under my car seat, but there's another wheel turning. When he says all the news without fear or favor, the kiss of death is good. The player is a liar when he says innumerable unseen spirits kick metaphysical footballs in a different cemetery than the cemetery he lives in. The player is lying when he says no one sees a subtextual reference to scrutinizing the remotest corners, most carefully guarded secrets, to pushes into the East Siberian Sea and the transpolar drift, the rocky distant rim of the Canadian Shield. The player is lying when he looks into the world of inquisition, when he separates one integral part of any work from another, when he says he was promised a world of lost forests, folded mountains, and labyrinthine hiding places, a snack, something serious to eat, a mirage of salvation, ascension sharp enough to consume sanity. The player is lying when he says winter thaws to summer, the pack ice breaks up into the Chukchi Sea, where warm Pacific waters join the gyre as it turns in its grinding cycle. The player is a liar when he says he's falling back to the earth in the form of pine needles, that he is no better than those other clones. The player's soul is at work disappearing in lies, communicating its isolation as total. When he says that the wings of the news are malady and the finalist became a doctor of philosophy. He is a liar when the extermination of the underclass is harvested on his tongue, when the processing line need a drink of water. When the processing line will be cleaned and silent. He is lying at the end of the lane, slowly turning into dirt. His thoughts and actions are elegiac fragments, mechanisms which flicker above the wrong note. When the circus in any labor wishes to act not as a condition of membership, but synthesized in underground factories, the requisite neurochemicals of cautious steps, an abyss of crop duster dictums spoken by 21st century revolutionaries via minor routes, filth, blood, and noise. Well, I just had one of those experiences when you read something you wrote a long time ago and all of a sudden you start to understand it for the first time. This is a poem to my younger brother, Jeffrey. The title is Consider Sending, something juvenile and ditzy, composed of many pieces of what we live in, pushed back against what interests you. I hear you when you say what I too feel. It is all set to kill us. Everything that we do is in time. We're beginning to see where it's going wrong, namely that a lot of what we take to be fact is not really fact. The news from Afghanistan to Paris to New York City to Florida, the many shootings here and abroad applies that our whole way of seeing the world could change. What is off-puttingly utopian and idealizing may be experienced by another as an opening to further change. But what does that mean? A plant's coming into being or maturation is such a quiet progression that we tend to focus on the fruit, the colorful prize of production in the vessel of taste. Is it a subtle form of self-deception? Isn't self-deception used to cover up contradiction, confusion? Why are people caught up all the time in defending it? When you say what I too feel, I'll begin acknowledging it, but I won't be caught up all the time in defending it. You find out what is wrong and change it, which will nourish the seedling plant when it emerges. There are more things in heaven and earth, matter in and outside the brain. I feel like a wet seed, wild in the hot, blind earth. Skyscrapers, the bulk of CO2 buildup in the atmosphere. Spaghetti, very low. There will be large-scale diversions, serial declarations of all clear and come back kid signals given. But the many malevolent genies are already out of the bottle and will not be put back without having their say. Everything we did is going in all sorts of directions, with thoughts conflicting and canceling each other out, producing what Joel Beal calls zones of social abandonment, which accelerate the death of the unwanted. That's the situation as it occurs in dreams. It places exchanges of linguistic information right in the middle. But when you're not dreaming and you open that box, the bandwidth of senses, poverty, hunger, psychological cruelty, proposals of significance and meaning, everyone present of merit, disallowing the lives of others. A great blue, wet world of thought. I'll bet that bush would be so soft and thick, you could use it as a most natural thing in the world. Everything is perfect. How it has been handed down person to person across generations. Bloomberg is an ass. Answer my question fast. Be silent, mechanical bee. It's not always going to be this way. You left me without warning. The wind is whistling through the screens. Ambulance and fire sirens carried on currents of chilled air. How do any business? In a great blue wet world, what an ass I've been. Misheard lyric. Somebody calls you, you answer quite slowly. That girl with colitis goes by. And the most natural thing, the world and the rage that he's burning up with spills over me. Its mooring is partial or provisional. In infinite emptiness, the people cannot see. Certainly no hope of gain motivates it. It is a revolt against the tedium of the merely economic attitude toward the great blue, wet world we have half a mind to kill. Everything seems to go wrong. It isn't a question of practice. It's the removal of our surplus. Someone said it's impossible, that you can't fit the whole world, that we can't place an initial experimental order that has no known experience of making the broken heart heal. Aeneas fights with Diomedes and Achilles in the Iliad and doesn't die. He may not be major, but he's a bit more than peripheral. Men seem to think it is a question of aesthetics. Nothing of the sort. Start at Prince Edward Island or start here. Coal ash contains mercury, arsenic, lead, and other toxic chemicals. It piles up in massive quantities. Indiana makes same-sex marriage a felony, punishable by prison. They are my words. Nobody asked me to write them. You are incinerating continuity and opportunity. You could step into a minefield without even knowing it. You could identify with the poor. I think I might have time for one last short one. And so I'll jump all the way to the end. Here comes that baby. This is called Synthetic Investments, dedicated to Vera Rao. Some of you may be familiar with him. He's an imprisoned Indian political dissident and poet. Yeah. Synthetic Investments. I just want the baby to disappear, and I'll disappear. He's such a sweet fellow, but some thugs should change. Amen. Trying to make a final decision this morning so I can move past this baby exchange idea. Do the numbers again. I wish I had inherited more diapers. The draining of the diapers creates another hazard in the home. As poop is pulled from the spongy diaper, the air above collapses, creating what is known as subsidence. Where subsidence is the worst, the air can sink as much as a foot each week. Babies arrive beneath one's skin. Air scarcity or tightening belts have neighboring babies eyeing one another warily. That's their diversion point. We're all in this together, but it's every baby for him and herself. Babies despise asymmetry. They take off their clothes to transcend embarrassment. Baby says, I'm going to eat the whole thing. There's only one present to share. I am nursed by the virtuosity of exceptionalism. A parent cries out, I don't think we're going to get the antiseptic in time. Another baby comments, gotta love humans. They have such huge assholes. Nice and slow, the polluted waters perform. The baby burns its fingers, depleting the warmth of organic synthesis. Selective cleavage requests the baby's participation. It makes one wonder where the country is. Thanks a lot.